Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Let's get ready to rumble!
And that's right, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Best Seat in the House podcast. I'm your host, Rob Cramer, as always, joined by my co-host, Daniel, Bobo, Kurlan, and Dan. How you doing tonight, buddy?
Doing good. Start up with opening ceremony here. Ready to go.
There you go. You got the opening ceremony going on.
Yep, exactly. It's an opening ceremony.
There we go. All right. Now, what kind of beer are you drinking there?
It's just some Budweiser for the fridge. Just had some leftover from a little. Yeah, so just since I had to crack one open today.
Very cool. Very cool.
Usual, because I don't know how often in hockey season you get this gap between games, but that's what we got today.
Yeah, very true. It's been a couple of days since our last Rangers game. That was on Sunday. They were playing Arizona. Now they're not going to be playing until tomorrow night, Thursday night in Seattle.
One of those late night games at 1:00, so it's gonna be one of those games where you're probably gonna set your DVR. And you might set your DVR to watch the next day, depending your work hours or whatever they are. But I know I'm probably going to be doing that. If it was during the playoffs, I'd stay up. But this is a little regular season game. I'll be setting my DVR, and the people I know, I could trust them not to tell me what happened until I watch the game. And I'll even go as far as avoiding any tweets from anyone that mentions the game until I've watched it.
Exactly. No spoilers. No spoilers.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to do Thursday. Of course, on the weekends, that doesn't really matter. Yeah, that's a little tricky.
Now, you were given these gummies from England, and yeah, right there at the top of the show. Let's just get it out of the way, Dan. Have a couple of those and give your instant review.
Hold on, let me open this. Go.
Now, what are the name of these gummies?
They're called.
There we go. Okay.
It's a mascot for these gummies.
Very big in England, I've been told.
And good stuff.
Good stuff. All right. Can you compare it to anything? Is it kind of like anything that we have over here, taste-wise?
I don't know. It's like your gummies and your fruit snacks kind of thing.
Okay, that's cool. Hey.
Good stuff. I think it's like a berry type flavor. Like, as you can see, these gummies, they look like their mascot. They look like pigs.
Very cool. Hey, they look very good. So, hey, if you want any more of the Best Seat in the House food reviews, send them along to our good friend and co-host of the show, Daniel, Bobo, Kurlan. We'll be happy to get it in the top of the show so everybody can see the amazing food review here that we've got in our show. All right, so yeah, we got that out of the way right off the bat, and there's one other thing that I'm sure you were very happy about, because it looks like you're very happy eating these fruit snacks over here now, these gummies. And one other thing I'm sure made you very happy was your New York Football Giants getting another victory this past Sunday as they defeated the Houston Texans. Just a gigantic win. I mean, that game to me had trap game written all over it, because the Giants have been off to such a good start. You know, we've been talking about this Giants Cowboys Thanksgiving game that's right around the corner coming up. So it'd be very easy for the Giants to have just looked ahead to that and lost focus a little bit, but that was not the case. They came out, they played a gritty game. It wasn't a beatdown by any stretch. The Texans had some moments where they kept themselves in the game, but your Giants were able to get the job done, man, and take care of business and prove to 7-2. How you feeling about your Giants right now?
Well, what can I say? Excited about it. That was such a great win. I mean, I was nervous that game because I know how these trap games were going to be, and plus, that's that looks like has lost every game. That they seemed like they were eager to get a win, even if they were going to be, even if they're in last place. They didn't want to go. They badly didn't want to have be like a. I guess they may have had maybe one win, but they seemed like they were. I don't know. I think they were undefeated. I got to check the Texans record again going into that game, but they did not want to go into that. They did not want. They wanted to end the season at least with some wins, so it looked like that. But we pulled it off once again. Daniel Jones has shown a lot of resiliency. Last couple of years, it looked like he got to a slow start. I mean, it really reminded me of Eli Manning, the way his career got off to a little slow start, but once he got it going, it was going good. And same thing for he's had so many injury riddled seasons. He never really got to show what he could do. And so far, he has done that. So I was very pleased with that. I'm very pleased with that win. Hopefully, we continue that momentum. We have another trap game that hopefully we somehow avoid falling into on Sunday against Detroit.
Yeah, and everything's been falling in place for the Giants right now. Their defense has been great. I mean, not like top of the league great, but they've been a bend don't break defense, meaning that they've gotten the stops when you've need them to. They've the possessions that could have been touchdowns, they've managed to keep them at field goals, and that's all the Giants defense can ask right now. It's not a top level defense, but they're no slouches either. That Giants defense gets in there and they play. I thought they were gonna take a big hit from losing a guy like Blake Martinez this year, and they just did. It doesn't matter. They shook it off. They're a well coached team, a well coached unit, and one thing I loved too from watching that Giant game on Sunday is the Jets were on a bye week, so the Jets and the Giants have been playing a lot at the same time this year. So it was nice to sit back and just watch one game going on, the Giants at this time. And the really cool thing that I thought, and the thing that really, if I was a Giants fan, I would love, was Dayball just ripping into the offensive line after some bad play early on in that game. And they really straightened themselves out after that. I think they took what he said to heart, as if you want to stay on the team, you damn well better, because this coach looks like he's not going anywhere for a long time. And I loved watching him rip into that unit because they deserved it. And the other thing I took out of this game too is that if I'm the Giants, I think it's time to move on from Kenny Golladay. Kenny Golladay has just or Galladay, I'm sorry. This guy just a couple of really, really egregious drops in this game, where the type of drops that you just cannot make when you're a veteran, big time getting paid receiver like Galladay. What are your thoughts on Kenny Galladay right now? I know that it was announced earlier today that I believe he has a hamstring issue. So I think they're already starting to lay the groundwork that you're not going to be seeing too much of Galladay for at least the next few weeks and potentially even the rest of the season. But what are your thoughts on Kenny Galladay right now?
I kind of feel the same thing. He's been a letdown. I mean, he had so many passes that could. I mean, that if they weren't dropped could have been very big runs there, and he missed out on it. And I also have to say about Brian Dable, you hit it right on the money with Brian Dable. He's been doing a job of rallying this team behind me. Is when they're and whenever there's a moment in the game they're slouching, he's able to get them back on the right. And I feel the players have been buying into it, and this is a recipe for greatness. I mean, that not just potentially maybe whatever happens this year, but could be even. I think it could trickle down into next year and maybe a couple of seasons. The longer this guy's coached, the longer he's been able to instill the system into the team. And I have to say, historically, a lot of the great Giants teams that we remember that won the Super Bowls, they all had great defenses, and sometimes they were defenses that opposing offenses feared. I feel we're getting right back into that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I mean, you've got the play of the young kid, Kevion Thibodeau, who's coming around and looks like that. Even if he hasn't reached his full potential yet, he's still a young kid, and I think that he's still, I think the Giants are using him the exact right way. They're still getting a lot of production out of Leonard Williams, which, hey, as a Jets fan, I have no ill will toward Leonard Williams. I'm happy that he's still being productive and in the NFL. So good for him. The Giants are still getting a lot out of him. That defensive line is starting to look like it's a little bit more of a disrupting force back there right now. And hey, just like you said, the Giants, one hallmark of pretty much every Giants championship team has been a very good defense. And like I said, this defense might not be there yet, but boy, are they laying the groundwork. And to be honest, I really see a lot of parallels between Daboll's first year as Giants head coach and Buck Showalter, by the way, the 2022 National League Manager of the Year. Congratulations, Buck.
Congratulations, Buck. I had a feeling without a doubt he was going to be man.
Right.
It just seemed the team bought into the system. The players have really come together as a team around him.
Yeah, and it's the same thing going on with the Giants, man. It's the Mets. I really see the parallels between the Mets and the Giants here, because when you look at it, look, were we happy the Mets got knocked out in the first round? No, but you know why we didn't press the panic button? You know why we didn't freak out? Because we have confidence that not only in Buck, like you said, installing these systems, building a culture in that clubhouse. It's the same thing with Daboll and the Giants, where this year is, hey, if the Giants go out and win the Super Bowl, that's fucking amazing. But if the Giants go out, make the playoffs, and get knocked off, at some point before the NFC Championship game, you're going to be A, happy they made the playoffs, and B, you're going to think to yourself, hey, even though we didn't get the job done this year, this is laying the groundwork for a really, really bright future, right?
Exactly. I feel that's it's going toward greatness and many celebrations in the Meadowlands. I feel like, and maybe hopefully an eventual another February trip to the Canyon of Heroes for all of you that don't know, and for all you outside the New York area. The Canyon of Heroes is the section, the route that in New York City the championship parades take. That route
exactly.
You ever see us mention that? We're referring to a parade, a championship parade.
Exactly. And they've had, a lot of different celebrations to the Canyon of Heroes. I mean, even World War II veterans, got a big welcome home down the Canyon of Heroes after VJ Day and VE Day and all that stuff.
I remember as a kid seeing that. I don't know, when they had the Desert Storm veterans after the Operation Desert Storm. I remember seeing that parade. In this, seeing that parade. I also, I've heard from some people. Remember even seeing them. I've heard that even they even did a parade for the moon landing.
Oh, that's true. You're right about that. Forgot about that. So I mean, that's a good point. So I mean, hey, if you're going down the Canyon of Heroes, that means big things are happening. And right now, big things are happening for a lot of our teams. And the Giants, I'm sure you were watching the Monday Night Football game this past week very closely as the Philadelphia Eagles lost to Tyler Heineke and the Washington Commanders. The Commanders. And they got the job done, man. Heineke got the win, and the 8-0 Eagles are now 8-1. You got to be happy about that.
Believe me, I'm happy about that. I had a feeling. I knew that the Eagles were not going to go undefeated this year. I'm sorry you could complain to me all you want, everybody from Philadelphia, but I just had a feeling.
Yeah, I think a lot of people felt that with you too, because the Commanders too, they're not a great team, but they're also not as bad as everybody thinks they are.
Yeah, exactly. They just looked like they did not want to go undefeated. They looked like they knew they were going to have a bad season, but a lot of times when you see a lot of times these bad teams, they might tank, but they don't want to tank really bad. Like they hate just being. They don't want to go They don't want to go. They don't want to go. They
Oh,
want to go.
winless, right?
Want to go winless.
Yep,
Don't
yep.
Definitely good job there.
Yeah, it's true, man. And you guys are getting ready now to play the Detroit Lions next week. So, I mean, this is a easier portion of the Giants schedule right now, where right now, playing the Lions, who actually did win last week, 31-30. They have a very competent offense. Their defense, though, is not too good. I think the Giants should win this game. The Giants are the favorites. Obviously, it's the Giants at 7-2. Game at first place at MetLife. What are your thoughts going into this game? I know the Lions could be a little bit of a weird team, but you got to be confident going in this game, right?
Confident going into this as long as the Giants keep their heads up and still treat this like they're playing. They need to go into every game like they're playing against a tough opponent. Can't take even a team that's tanking really bad. You cannot take them like. And
No doubt about it.
and also speaking of football, I heard that the NFL is doing on Thanksgiving is doing a nice little tribute to John Madden. I heard.
Oh, I hope so, because that's a really, really good idea if they do it. Because John Madden is the best. I love that guy, and he's one of the biggest names in NFL history.
Plus, that he had a nice little tradition with the Thanksgiving game.
That's true.
He would name like a player the MVP of the game, and they would be handed they would eat a turkey leg usually during the interview. I heard
Yep.
that tradition, and hopefully we'll be seeing one of the Giants having that honor of celebrating a win by eating a turkey leg after the game.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man.
Ginormous. I think if I'm correct, it might be like one of those ginormous turkey legs, like they sell at Disney World. If you've been
Yeah,
to
yeah.
World, you know what I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
Kind of
Exactly, man. And so with that too, by the way, there's a really, really good documentary on the NFL Network they just put out for John Madden. So if you're interested in watching that, definitely check that out. It was so well done. I highly recommend it. But just to continue on with the Giants here real quick before we move on. This is a big game for the Giants because they really have to put this one in the win column. The NFC is a tough. It looks like it's going to be, it's tough to get in, especially in the NFC East right now, where all three teams are a threat. All four teams are a threat. They're all over 500, or being the Commanders at 500. But when you look around, especially at the rest of the Giants' schedule, they still got two games against the Commanders, who, like we said, especially with Heineke, they're a resilient bunch, no doubt about that. So you can't take those games lightly. They still have two games left with the Eagles. They also have a game against the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota. And, Minnesota just had a really great game against the Bills this past week, which helped the Jets out. We'll talk about in a minute. But, Minnesota is definitely a tough team. So the Giants have some tough games ahead of them, especially divisional ones. So they really have to put this win in their back pocket. And then, if they're able to do that and improve to 8-2, you got to feel great about your chances of getting in the playoffs and even winning the division.
Yeah, believe me, if they get this, I'm going to feel great about that. I know. Probably also after this game, Thanksgiving's going to be probably a rare Thanksgiving. I'm not going to be so calm after potentially, especially what time the food's ready. Because depending what time it's time to eat Thanksgiving dinner, I'll be setting up a nice little thing in front, one of those little fold-out tables or something in front of the TV,
Yeah.
watching the Giants game. As a matter of fact, some Thanksgiving pictures in my house. I'm probably going to be wearing my Giants jersey on game day. This is going to be a rare time that I'll be watching a Thanksgiving game and having a rooting interest. Normally, I'm pretty much normally rooting for the Cowboys to lose on Thanksgiving. This time, I'm actually rooting for the Giants to beat them.
Exactly. You're still rooting for the Cowboys to lose, but you're more so rooting for the Giants to beat them. And
Yep.
Even in the earlier game that day too is also pretty interesting. Where the 12:30 game is the Detroit Lions, and they're going to be playing against the Buffalo Bills. So that's definitely a meaningful game. Did you catch any of that Bills Vikings game from this past Sunday too?
I caught some of it. I caught some of it. I caught highlights of it because I forgot if that game was airing here in the New York area, or is that one was just something that you needed a premium thing, because it's hard to keep track outside the local teams what's airing in the New York area on the Sunday.
Yeah, it wasn't airing in this area until late when I forget, it might have even been once the Giant game ended, then they picked that up. But they ended up airing the end because I was watching the end of the game there, and but it wasn't initially on in New York. You are right about that, and but hell of a game, man. The Vikings were able to pull it out, beat the Bills in overtime, 33-30, dropping the Bills for the second straight week. Now the Bills have lost 2 straight to the Jets and the Vikings now. Bills are 6-3, tied with the Jets for second place at 6-3. The Dolphins currently lead the division in the AFC East at 7-3, but they're in a bye this week. So now the Jets play this Sunday against the New England Patriots and I this isn't hyperbolic at all because it's 100% true. This is the biggest game the Jets have played in at least 7 years. Realistically, at least 7 years, this is the biggest game the Jets have played. Because when you look at what is on the table right now for the Jets, they're 6-3. If they win this game, this propels them to first place, tied with Miami, who they would have the edge over because they beat Miami head to head. So both teams would be 7-3, but the Jets would have the tiebreaker. But if the Jets lose to the Patriots in New England, which is not going to be easy, then they'll be in last place. Which they'd still have a decent shot of making the playoffs, as long as they win the games we expect them to the rest of the way. But it would just be a much more difficult road. Right now, they actually have a shot to win the division. And it's just it's blowing my mind. What do you think, Dan? Do you think that it's just a pipe dream that the Jets can win this division, or do you think that there's an actual chance they have?
I think they have an actual chance. They just look like it. Like, for whatever reason, the coaching staff, the players seem to be buying into it. They just look a lot different from what most of us usually expect with the Jets. Because I just look like a lot of times going into football season, I just know, yeah, I'm gonna hear all my friends that are Jets fans. Oh, I feel bad. Good luck. Hopefully you make it through another one of these. But they're they're gonna they're gonna have a pretty decent season, but and they're potentially going to be watching playoff football. Also, speaking of out of market football, I think this is going to be the last year DirecTV has a monopoly on watching full out of market games. I think next year, if I'm correct, they're going to Apple TV next year. Am I correct?
I'm not positive about that. I do know that their deal with DirecTV is due to end at some point in the next year or two. So you might be right about that.
Yeah, that'd be great because I know people that rather go with a different cable provider than DirecTV. That are fans of a team in another state, in another city, and they want to watch that team, and they don't like DirecTV. I mean, we had it, and I think we went back to what's now it's Spectrum. Back then it was Time Warner, but we went back after a year or so with DirecTV. It sucks, especially when the weather is bad and they lose signal. I hated that. I hated that with DirecTV when you lost signal. And
Yeah,
then when they
DirecTV stinks, man.
lost signal, and I'm getting call, and someone who has a different cable provider was watching whatever I missed out on because of the weather. And I remember, of course, I also remember when it snowed that one year was that I mean, you wiped the snow off the dish. Didn't like DirecTV. Glad I'm not dealing with them any. Glad we're not. Glad my mother just realized. Yes, got it. What I was saying that it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
We switched back, and plus and I think she got an even better deal with Spectrum than she got with when that time she tried out DirecTV. And also, I gotta say another thing that was a let's put it this way, how bad it is. Imagine that year. I remember watching an NASCAR race. It was raining over here, but wherever the race was, it wasn't raining. I missed the finish of that race because of the rain.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, that was that bad. But thank God I don't deal with that anymore. Somehow the Spectrum does not have that problem. That I'm not trying to sound like a commercial, but I'm just sounding like what I've experienced as a customer. I don't deal with that problem usually. Usually, when I see there's an outage, it's usually they're doing there's a legitimate problem with some connection or something, or they're doing some maintenance.
Exactly. There's not just a couple of clouds in the sky. Yes. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, hopefully that DirecTV stranglehold on those NFL rights is coming to an end. That would be awesome. And say what you want about Apple TV, it's easier to access than DirecTV. So
Yeah,
very cool about that.
yeah. That'd be pretty cool. I don't know how true it is. I remember reading some things, but if that is, that's gotta be great for people that live out of state. And I know
Oh
plenty.
yeah.
I know some, and I do got some out of state Giants fans that would love that, being able to not have to deal with DirecTV for their TV service, because that's the only one that has the NFL package. Because a lot of the other ones are available on a lot of are available through every TV provider, but DirecTV has that stranglehold on the NFL, unless you want to watch the Red Zone, which is available everywhere. But people like me, I just want to watch my favorite team. I'm not really wanting to watch a million highlights of every single game half the time, especially the fact that Zone does not stay on until every game. I remember when I've checked out Red Zone, I think it stays on. I think they stay on till like 4 or 5. So they don't stay on until every game on Sunday. I mean, every Sunday afternoon game has ended. So it
Yeah,
still doesn't
very true.
make up for not having access to Sunday tickets. So I'm
Yeah.
glad the DirecTV stranglehold on out of market NFL games expires.
Very true. And by the way, Spectrum, we're expecting, a little back pay for this. You know what I mean? Let's go. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be a little bit nice. All right.
Yeah, a little kickback. A little kickback for the Bobo man. Let's go. Come on.
Maybe a little discount to my service, maybe a little discount to my Wi-Fi. Just saying.
Just saying. Just throwing it out there. That's all we're doing. But
Yeah,
yeah, so before we move on here though, because I do want to check I do want to get into a little baseball free agency, hot stove talk and stuff like that in the second half of the show. But before we move on from the football here, I want to ask you this question. What do you think um the odds let's put the prediction, let's throw predictions out right now. If we're gonna say right now, New York Giants make the playoffs on November 16th, where we're filming this right now. Are you 100% certain that you will be watching Giants playoff football in January?
I'm about right now 65% sure of it right now.
Hey, that's a good percentage. That's definitely a good percentage. I'm probably right about there with you for the Giants too. I think the Giants are right about 65, 70%, 7-2. They've given themselves a great shot to get in. And for the Jets, what do you think about the Jets? What do you think percentage wise about the Jets being in the playoffs?
I feel they're in the same boat around there, 65, 70% right now.
I can't disagree with you there. I understand why you're saying that too. The Jets, though, I feel it's a little bit lower. Even though the Jets right now have it in front of them in the AFC, they should be able to get in. They would be a playoff team if it ended today. But I do want to see them go out there and beat the Patriots this Sunday before I start saying that I fully expect to see them. My percentage for the Jets would be 50% right now. It would be right around probably at 50 exactly, because the thing that's going to push me one way or another is this Sunday's game against the Pats. Because if they win, it game on, man, game on. I'd be right up there with you, 7-3. Let's go. And I think the same thing with the loss too, going in the opposite direction. If they lose this game, oof, man, my hopes for going to the playoffs are going to be right down the drain. But the funny thing is too is that if everything breaks the perfect way, and the Dolphins would have to lose on Sunday, the Eagles would have to lose on Sunday, and the Jets and the Giants would both have to win. Do you know the last time that on Thanksgiving the Jets and the Giants were both in first place?
I'm gonna guess 2008 maybe.
And you know what? Let's just make that Stump the Bow for this week. We haven't done that in a while, but we're going to bring it back. But Stump the Bow, once again, he gets it done 2008. Great job there, man, because I thought it was going to be I was thinking like 2011, right around there, but, because I looked this up earlier today. But yeah, 2008, you're right. That was the last time that was the Brett Favre-led Jets, and that was at one point, Plaxico Burress led Giants before he shot himself in the leg like a big dummy. So the Jets and the Giants, yeah, 2008, you nailed that, man. Boy, it was a different world back then.
It was a thing where of course we unfortunately dealt with the situation where Brett Favre shot himself in the. I meant where Plaxico Burress shot himself on the foot, and Brett Favre may have done something that may have maybe hit him maybe at the end of his football days, if you remember what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yes, sending a couple of illicit pictures, I believe you're referring to.
Yeah, exactly. He had that mistake. Even though I'm a Giants fan, I remember scratching my head about that trade for Brett Favre. I felt at that time, I just felt like didn't look like he really gelled there or was enthusiastic about being traded to the Jets. It seemed like. Plus that it like looked like he was at the tail end of his career then. Like I heard a lot of Jet fans really didn't want Brett Favre.
Oh yeah, well, I'm telling you this right now. A lot of Jet fans were on the fence, but not me, my friend. I've always been a big Brett Favre fan. I was fucking pumped when they got Favre. I always liked Pennington. It was nothing against him, but you bring in a Hall of Fame quarterback. I'm telling you this right now, too, because, he still had that one big season left in him. Unfortunately, it came when he was with Minnesota the following year. But if he had that season in 2008, instead of all those freaking interceptions that he threw that year, especially after he hurt his arm, the Jets win the Super Bowl that year. And I know it sounds crazy and it sounds like I'm rewriting history, but I truly believe that the Jets would have won the Super Bowl if Brett Favre, if 2009 Brett Favre was on the 2008 Jets. But hey, maybe that's why it didn't happen, because I also think that the fact that he was in a dome playing for Minnesota played a big role in him performing better too. So there's that.
I think Minnesota maybe had different expectations than playing for a team like the Jets. I felt like Brett Favre, maybe Green Bay, even though they the fans are like diehards. I feel the expectations at Green Bay weren't expectations in New York, and maybe Brett Favre wasn't quite able to handle that high expectation. I mean, with a big name coming to New York, it sometimes doesn't go well. We've seen sometimes.
All right, and now that we got the football out of the way, let's get into some baseball, Dan. Right now, is we got a lot of hot stove to talk about. It's crazy too that the two New York teams, who are pretty much the two biggest spenders in baseball, not counting the Dodgers, because the Dodgers are definitely in that area too. But it's so funny. How often have we seen, if ever, the two biggest free agents on the market is a Met and a Yankee? Normally these type of guys wouldn't even get to free agency, man. How weird is that?
Yeah, I know it's weird. Also, I have to say the big free agents to hit they take a little longer to sign. So I feel right now it's getting off, at least here in New York, a little bit slow. I've seen a couple of teams make some trades, but it's gonna get interesting the next couple of weeks and start heating up. Might even be in January, but I'm still being hopeful the Mets will re-sign deGrom, because I badly don't want to experience what a lot of Met fans older than me experienced in 1977. I don't want to experience that.
Yeah, that's the last thing we need, is to be letting a guy like deGrom go. And you know what? I see a lot of Met fans trying to rationalize it, saying, "Oh, deGrom is so injury prone. Why do we want to pay him 40 plus million a year? Who knows what we're going to get out of him?" And the way I think about it, though, is, first of all, the Mets have the money. Stop thinking like we're in the Wilpon era and every single dollar that we save is being used for something else. If the Mets re-signed deGrom, that's not going to stop them from doing anything else. The Mets got close this year. Steve Cohen is not going to want to, hold back a little bit and then have the same thing happen next year where they maybe not make the playoffs or get knocked off early again. Steve Cohen wants to go all out. So don't sit here and try and save every penny because of Jacob deGrom. And you know what? I would much rather pay deGrom and have him come here and be injured for the whole contract than not pay him and watch him go win a Cy Young or a World Series somewhere else, right?
And I feel it's like kind of 50-50. Like, I feel there's a lot more Met fans that want him back than the Met fans that don't want him back. There's fans that this guy just brought a different energy to this team. And
Yeah.
And I feel like last year was more of him coming back from the injury. I feel this year he's going to be more ready to come back to actually be back from the injury, because he's not going to be spending a whole off season and into the season coming back from an injury. I feel it's going to be in a normal off season not really coming back from an injury, but getting ready for the season. So
Yeah, you're right, man. I totally agree.
it could be Cy Young, Jacob deGrom again.
Yeah,
And
and the question is, do you want to see that in another uniform?
oh, definitely, I don't want to see that would hurt. And and even last year when he came back, he looked like there was signs of it. So you knew
Yeah,
that, and plus I feel they remember during the playoffs, all the starting pitchers that pitched in that playoffs, he was the only one that got a win, and he looked like he was being he was a bulldog in game 2 of the wild card. He was he looked like he didn't get phased by maybe giving up 2 runs. He still stayed it, kept in the game. It was typical deGrom that he never completely falls apart. deGrom would never, even when he had like maybe a little blip, maybe gave a run, he never, he still kept, he kept this cool and kept this team in the game and played a factor into getting the win. And that's what we saw during what I had a feeling was going to happen in game 2, and he delivered. And
yeah,
he uh, stay in that game, that opportunity to score those runs, and we won game 2. Unfortunately, game 3 we went into that, it was a do or win or go home thing, and fortunately Chris Bassett had he kind of faltered a little bit in that spot, but I feel the Grom kept us in that series and got us was a big factor into how we got 1 win short of winning that series, and who knows what would have happened had we won that wild card round. We might have. I meant the sky could have been the limit on that one.
yeah.
It,
It could have been the Mets in the World Series, not the Phillies.
yeah. We probably might have even. I feel we may have fared better against the Astros. I just felt like there
Yeah,
was just that Mets team last year just felt like the reason why this loss in in a wild card round was a shocker is that all season the Mets looked like they rose to the top, and when they had a bad game, they bounced back quickly, and
yeah.
so I was like in shock after that walk around, and I have a feeling this year if we make the right moves in the off season, Steve Cohen could set us up really nice to bounce back, and I said that begins with the pitching and
No
potentially
doubt about it.
because I don't know what there is after that. I mean, there's some pitchers that could go okay, but Verlander feels like it. We don't know how many years he's going to have left.
Hmm.
Don't know how much Verlander is can handle a big market. I mean, like deGrom, who's shown that he's handle is the guy we might bring in another one. And sometimes, I mean, there's also I forgot the name of that guy from Japan. These Japanese names are hard to pronounce, unfortunately. Sometimes, not anything against it, it's just unfortunately the way it is for some of us. These names can be hard to pronounce, but he that guy could be a good pitcher, but it's very hit or miss. Sometimes when you get players that come in from the professional baseball and in Japan, especially for pitchers, it's very hit or miss when it
Yeah,
comes.
no, yeah, you're definitely right about that, man. And I forget the guy's name too. I think his last name is Saito, but I'm not 100% sure about that. We're gonna have to look that up for next show because I did forget about him too. But you know what though, and not just you, many Met fans, myself included, always draw the parallels between Jacob deGrom and Tom Seaver. And there's a lot of things they have in common, and obviously a lot of things they don't have in common, like Seaver's ability to go deep in games and Seaver's wins. You know, Seaver 311 wins compared to deGrom 82. That's a pretty big difference, you know. But the thing I do want to point out, though, because you did mention that deGrom won the only playoff game for the Mets this year, which is very true, which means that now Jacob deGrom, through 2 playoff seasons for the Mets, is 4-1 in his career. And Tom Seaver also pitched in 2 playoff seasons for the Mets, 69 and 73. And during that time, Tom Seaver went 3-3. So Jacob deGrom actually has more playoff wins as a Met than Tom Seaver right now. So now, am I saying deGrom's better than Seaver? No, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that, you know, people give deGrom some respect because let's be honest, everybody wants to bring up the fact that he only has 82 wins and, he's 34 years old and, this and that. Everybody wants to bring that stuff up. But let's be honest. If deGrom was on any other team in 2018 and 2019, he's a 20-game winner both of those years, winning the Cy Young. So let's not sit here and act like Jacob deGrom, and not to mention too the fact that he was healthy for the full 2020 season, but it wasn't his fault. It was only 60 games, and he only got to start 12 times. So I understand the criticism, but let's look at it through a rational perspective that Jacob deGrom is definitely on the level of Tom Seaver, whether people want to admit that or not. He is. And, it's so important to make sure that he's back for next year. And what do you think about these rumors? What I'm seeing right now is that supposedly the two teams that he would want to go to, not named the Mets, are the Texas Rangers and the Houston Astros. Do you buy that at all?
No, I don't really buy that at all. I feel that's like his second choice. I feel he's hoping for that offer. Mets. He knows how to the fans. He knows he's played. He knows how much he.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I
And
mean, I could rationalize deGrom going to the Astros because even though we think the Mets are going to be a World Series contender for the next couple of years, the Astros have already done it twice in the last 5 or 6 years. So I could understand, even though I'd still be mad and I would still be very upset if deGrom left. For Houston, I could rationalize it because, okay, the guy wants to go over there. They have a winning culture, a couple of championships. He wants to get a ring. I'd be upset, but I would understand. If he goes to Texas, the Texas Rangers, that is, that would destroy me because that would just be, which I can't see the Mets getting outbid by the Texas Rangers anyway. I feel like the Mets would match any offer, so it's not like he'd be going there for the money. But I mean, I guess maybe it would be for the money technically if you factor in state taxes and all that kind of stuff. But I'm sure the Mets would make that up to him in the long run. They would make sure that the offers even out. But I don't know. I feel like if he went to Texas, it I just can't imagine that going well. If he goes to Houston, I could see him still having similar numbers as long as he's healthy that he had with the Mets. But I feel like if he goes to the Texas Rangers, his numbers are going to go through the freaking roof in a bad way for him.
yeah, exactly. I feel it's meant for him to come back to the Mets. He has no idea. He'll definitely make plenty of money coming here to the Mets. I mean, especially if he wins here. If he goes to the Mets and wins the World Series with the Mets, you know how much money he'll be making the rest of his life, especially in endorsements and
Oh,
everything.
no doubt about it, man. You're 100% right. But I think the fact of the matter is right now, the thing that worries me is, does he want to be in New York anymore? I don't know. Maybe he doesn't like the taxes here. Maybe he's a Florida guy, and obviously both Florida teams aren't in a position to pay him. So maybe he just wants to go back down south, and Texas is the next best thing to Florida, I guess. Maybe that's the way he's thinking. I hope it's not because I want him to stay in New York on the Mets, but that's the one thing that scares me that, like a lot of other people that are bolting New York, maybe Jacob deGrom is one of them, and I really hope I'm wrong about that.
That doesn't affect it because, come on, can't we have at least something nice in New York at least? Can't we have our win a championship for once? Like, come on, it's like that bad that we can't get our city to win for once.
Yeah,
Come on.
yeah. I hear you, man. These New York teams got to get on it. It's been a while since we had a winner.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to be in a situation where we can't get anyone. All right, this how could you not want to? I cannot see deGrom wanting to leave. Everybody keeps saying that he would want to come back. He wants to come back. Do it, Steve Cohen. Everything you can. All right. At least we can do that. All right. And if not, well, don't let the door hit you on the way out, because I don't think we're gonna be giving you any applause until Old Timers Day in which you retire, because it's not like the rest of your playing career. Once you turn your back on us, the rest of your playing career, you're on the opposite side.
Yeah, yeah, it's true, man. And
And
speaking of oh, I'm sorry, what were you gonna say?
and we would have to hopefully find our luck with someone else. And good pitching is just hard to find.
Oh, no
And
doubt about it, man.
uh, and his championship team. All right, I have faith that deGrom's gonna come back. Please,
Exactly.
please return to us. Please return. We need you, Jake.
Help us, Jacob deGrom. You're our only hope. you know. And speaking of another team that I'm sure feels very, very similar about their player that we're talking, the other big fish on the other side of town, Aaron Judge. There are a lot of rumors saying that the Giants are going to be heavily into anything involving Aaron Judge. Steinbrenner just came out the other day and said that the Yankees were going to be in the Aaron Judge mix, and they're going to be matching any offer. And as a matter of fact, I believe the exact thing he said was that the Yankees will not be outbid for Aaron Judge. So it's very, very interesting that he's taken that stance, because Hal hasn't talked like that in a couple of years. He doesn't exactly have the gusto or the presence that his dad had. But that's a pretty big talk for the younger Steinbrenner there. What do you think, Dan? I mean, right now, I would say that I believe Judge is probably staying with the Yankees, but
I
a lot of people don't think that. What about you?
feel it's 70% he's coming back to the Yankees, because I feel Steinbrenner really understands that he'll get a lot of backlash had that happen had he if he does not bring back Aaron Judge. He knows his whole off season and his whole legacy is riding on a line.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right, man. I mean, Aaron Judge, if he comes back to the Yankees too, and obviously no one expects him to have the season that he had last year again. It's going to be nearly impossible to ever replicate or come close to that again. But he could still, as long as he just maintains his career averages, 35 plus home runs, somewhere between 30 and 50, 280 to 300 batting average, over 100 RBIs for the next few years of this contract, he would cement his name into the Yankee legacy along names like Lou Gehrig and Mickey Mantle and Joe DiMaggio and Babe Ruth. And he would be in that line. And you'd probably see number 99 retired at some point in the next decade. What do you think about that, Dan? You think that plays a big role for him?
I think that plays role. I think Aaron Judge has the ability. I mean, of course, we're Met fans, but I remember, because we share the same city as the Yankees, I remember a lot of times, even as a teenager, seeing with Yankee fans, there were a lot of people back in the day, like their youth, and they remember. Well, I'm only the youth; we're not that old, but I mean, people remember growing up. They remember Derek Jeter. People my age, that one of the things they mentioned about the Yankees, they talk about Derek Jeter. There is a generation of Yankee fans. Aaron Judge is that player that they remember. They're going to remember growing up. That's the effect that Aaron Judge has. He's like this generation's big star on that team.
That is very true, man. It's very true. So I totally agree with you. He's the face of the Yankees. He's probably, to a lesser extent, the facer of Major League Baseball, if you really think about it. Yeah, it makes total sense to make sure they bring him back. And actually, before we move on from the Yankees too, they actually signed. They made a deal already. They brought back the first baseman Anthony Rizzo on a 3-year deal. Seems like he's a tailor-made, as we saw. He's had a couple of good years for the Yankees. Now he's tailor-made that swing and everything for Yankee Stadium. Said he loves the team, he loves the city, he loves the vibes. What do you think, Dan? Good move, or you think the Yankees, this mix of players hasn't worked yet? Maybe they should have moved on. What do you think?
That was a good move that the Yankees made because I feel I feel Anthony Rizzo has adapted to the pressure because I feel like when you're wearing the uniform of the Mets or the Yankees, there is high expectations to win. And if you have an NY, whether it's this low for NY or the NY on a Yankees cap, there is pressure to pull up winning numbers year in and year out. And I feel Anthony Rizzo has handled it well. He's been so far playing up to the numbers we expect.
Yeah, you're right. You're definitely right about that, man. And it's also one other interesting fact too. Before we move on from the Yankees here, as we're just about out of time here too. We're gonna be wrapping up in a couple of minutes, but the one other interesting fact about the Yankees bringing back Rizzo is that Anthony Rizzo right now is the only player on the Yankees with a world championship ring. Now, as weird as that is to say, right? Because growing up with the Yankees, they all had championship rings. Now that hasn't been the case since they haven't won since 2009. Anthony Rizzo of the 2016 Cubs is the only former World Series champion on the team. And had he left, the 2023 Yankees would have joined the 1970 Yankees and the 1974 Yankees as the only two Yankee teams. Well, it would have been three with this team, but the only Yankee teams over the last 100 years to not have a World Series champion on it. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's crazy to realize. That's crazy when you look at their history. Also, I have to say, one of the things that probably made Anthony Rizzo live up to the expectations, he won a World Series with the Chicago Cubs. And I don't know if it's the high expectations in New York, but the Chicago Cubs had a long championship drought prior to 2016. And there was always that pressure to break that championship drought. Fans were eager for it. There seemed to be that high pressure, and he came through. He was a part of a Cubs team that came a big factor in that Cubs team that came through, and were not fazed by that at all, that pressure. And they got it done. And it's a similar thing. If you remember, it's a similar thing I've said about the 2004 Red Sox, that they seem to have been not fazed by that pressure of breaking a team that's been known as a team with a long championship drought that seems to always lose in the big spots in every way imaginable. There was that big pressure to finally overcome that. And that's the same way. Speaking of that, I feel also the current Mets owner, Steve Cohen, is going to, at Billy Epler, the GM, we're finally going to be assembling a Mets team that is unfazed by that championship drought. And we could finally get to see it happen. And please, Mets, win a World Series. Do it. Especially, I want my mom to be able to be around for it. I want Mr. Malunigan to be around for it. All right, he's a dog. All right, dog. I mean, the dog through their lifespan. All right, come on. I want him to be around to see that on my lap. Being able to join. So I want him to join in the celebration when I walk down my block. Being a fan, him being part of that celebration too. So it's like be around for that. It means a lot, especially my mom, right? she took me to Met games growing up, as you know. I've told you the stories. So it's like that means for her to be around for it too.
Exactly. And that plea was as much to God as it was to Steve Cohen, because hey, let's hope you got his ear, man, because it's about time. Stevie Cohen put the timeline at 3 to 5 years. Well, we're on year 2. So let's see what we got.
That by 2024, I'm gonna be seen, hopefully, probably on this show, wearing as world champions sometime between now and 2024. Those for those 2 years will be on that shirt, and I'll probably be wearing a hat. I'll probably be wearing a hat similar to this one, but with a World Series patch from that World Series, as you know.
Very true. Well, from your lips to God's ears, buddy, you got that right. Send the beer guy.
From that I bought from the 7-Line a few years back, which whoever has been at Tom Mets fan, you see what this shirt says.
Send the beer guy.
Exactly.
There you go. And yeah, hell yeah, man, you're 100% right about that. Let's just hope we could get that done. And I like the positive thinking. But we're just about running out of time here. Dan, too, we were gonna do a bonus show this past weekend, but I ended up having a extra busy weekend than I thought. Wasn't able to get around to doing it, but I'm thinking after a couple of big Jets and Giants games this Sunday, how about after a little NFL football, we do a little bonus show to make up for that?
Yep, I kind of like that. After the football games ends, after I think the Giants and Jets are playing at the same time again this year. I mean this weekend. So I think after those 2 games ends, we'll be filming a little bonus show.
All right, sounds good, man. Let's put that in the books.
Up a nice little way to begin Monday morning.
Exactly, and I'll probably even put it out on Sunday night if possible, but maybe I will hold it back till Monday morning. But either way, we'll figure it out. We'll definitely be putting out a bonus show this weekend. So we just want to thank everybody for all your support, checking out our Twitter, checking out our Instagram, and everything else. So we're going to be getting out of here now. Dan, before we get out of here, also too, do yourself a favor and check out Dan's appearance on Chip Chipperson, which is now available on YouTube. And Dan, anything else that you want to plug?
Sure. For one thing, definitely check out my amazing appearance on Chip Chipperson. It's now available for everyone to watch it. Also, also definitely check out my Twitter account, Bobo103NYC, and Bobo718DK on Instagram, and Daniel Kurlan on YouTube. Also, there will be a link in the description of this episode. Remember what I was saying about any friends of mine that want to send me like some stuff from overseas, or exactly want to see me try during an episode. I'll make my PO box address in the description. And bear in mind it's a PO box, so make sure it's sent through like a post office, because that's like how it works with a post box address. So, but I'll make sure my PO box address is in the description of this video.
Absolutely. Send that to me. Send me that info, and I will include it on the video. And yeah, everybody, thank you once again for tuning in and checking us out. You can check our Twitter out on Twitter at bsith_podcast. You can check me out on there at my last name, Cramer NY. And don't forget to check out our Instagram at Best Seat in the House Podcast. So everybody, once again, thank you for helping us out, and hope you enjoyed the show. As always, I'm Rob Cramer with my co-host, Daniel Bobo Kurlan, and this is the Best Seat in the House Podcast. We'll catch you next week.
Howie Rose would say, put it in the books.